When there is affection, connection, then there is attachment, and there is safety. And girls, when you feel safe, you want to give your heart away to your husband, don't you? And when you give your heart away, the rest of you follows. Is that right? Tell your husband it's right.
Yeah, it's a good word, Barb. And Paul says a woman is to respect her husband and a husband is to love his wife. You know, guys, we need to admire our wives. We need to tell them verbally in writing. We need to shout it from the rooftop. A number of years ago, we were doing one of these marriage nights in Dallas, Texas, and a gentleman came up to me during the break, and he said, Dr. Gary, I've got a very troubling issue. He said, I'm addicted. I'm a sex addict. I have, blown out every boundary you can imagine, and nobody's ever been able to help me. And I don't know that you'd have anything, but I'm just going to ask. And I said, I do have something for you. And the Holy Spirit just inspired me. I'd never told anybody this before. It was kind of a remarkable deal. I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, the next time you're having physical intimacy with your bride, I said, I want you to open your eyes. Now, don't go like that, okay, because it'll just scare her to death. And but just gently, just open your eyes. And he said, what do you mean? I said, when you're in the middle of sexual intimacy, I want you to open your eyes. I want you to look with grace and honor and respect and love and tenderness into your wife's countenance. And he goes, well, why? And I said, because I would submit to you that you cannot be looking into the countenance of your wife and be reflecting back on a past image or person or memory. And he said, man, Gary, he said, no one's ever said that to me. And I said, son, I'm going to tell you, I've never recommended that. God just gave that to me. Just, give it a shot. Call us on the radio and let us know how it goes. So we go back to the last part of the evening on spiritual intimacy, and about 45 minutes later, we're all done. He comes running up onto the platform, and he goes, it worked! And I said, it worked? And he goes, yeah. And I went, what do you mean? We've only been in? He said, no. He said, Dr. Rosberg, he said, at the end of the night, he said, you had us take our wives' hands. And he said, and I was holding my sweetheart's hand, and we were praying. And you told us that emotional intimacy, sexual intimacy, and spiritual intimacy are all connected. And I said, yes, I did. And Barb did too. And he said, so while we were praying, he said, I opened my eyes. And he said, I looked into the eyes of my wife. And she opened her eyes, and she goes, close your eyes. We're in church. And he said, I just looked at her, and I just went, no. And he said, Gary, he said, I have never spiritually connected to my wife until that day. He said, I can't wait to go home and try. And I said, okay, I don't want to hear the rest of what you're going to go home and try. Now, is that incredible? You see, he's spiritually connected with his sweetheart because he connected to his sweetheart. You know what, folks? When you connect spiritually and your spouse is respected and your spouse is loved, and we fulfill that admonition, in Ephesians 5. When we look at 1 Peter 3:7, and you are living in consideration and you're living with understanding, when you are elevating the needs of your spouse, they will feel safe and we will connect.